Hey, welcome back to the Digital Imaging channel. I'm Will, and today we're going to be running through our microfiche scanning process. Before we get into the actual process, just a few quick things. One, this is our specific process. We cannot speak for other companies and how they scan microfiche. This is just how we do it. And the reason we want to tell you is because when you send your fiche to us, they're probably one of a kind. It's a microfiche collection. You likely don't have too many copies of them. Probably sensitive data on them. You want to know what happens because this is kind of a very nuanced type of material that not many people do this. So you may not know how, and it's important that you do know how your fiche gets scanned and what happens to them during the process. So we're going to give you our step-by-step method of how we scan your microfiche to digital. So the first step in the process is receiving your microfiche, and we're assuming all the contract stuff's done, we've made a scope of work, all the admin agreements have been in place, and we're actually getting into the real project. So the first step, we get your microfiche, and that can be done through various methods. We may pick it up, you may drop it off, you may have it shipped like UPS or FedEx, or have some sort of freight company bring it. There are a lot of different ways to get the microfiche to us, but that is the first step, us actually receiving your microfiche. The next step in the process is tagging the transportation containers. Now, microfiche, because they're those little sheets, then there could be a couple thousand, there could be hundreds of thousands of these. You're not sending them individually. They're going to come in some sort of container like a box or a plastic tub or something. So the first thing we're going to do when we get your microfiche is tag the containers, and that's going to be a barcode label, and we're going to put it into our Unity material tracking system. We call it MTS. So during the entire project, that barcode label is going to be scanned and tracked throughout the different steps of the process. So we'll always know where your microfiche are within the project. Now, the barcodes are not on an individual fiche level. They are on the container, but that's still important to track where the containers are during the process. Individual sheets will be tracked once they're scanned and we know how many units you actually have. Step 3 in the process is secure storage. Now, after we tag the containers, what we typically do is put your microfiche in storage, and it is secure storage within our facility. You could check out our physical security video that goes into many more pieces of security, but for this purpose, basically secure storage is we put your microfiche in a temperature and humidity controlled locked area, so it's segregated from the general population of the company. Unless it's being worked on, we're gonna have your microfiche in storage. So if it's being prepped or scanned or moved to a different part of the facility to do something related to the project, we won't have it in storage. But if it's not being utilized, then we'll put it back in storage so it is secure while it's not being worked on. Step 4 in the process is actually creating your job order. So we mentioned before that, we're assuming the contract's already done, the admin's already done, you've already worked something out with your sales rep. Well, now that we have the project, they need to translate that sort of admin sales paperwork into something they can actually use to create the project. So our sales rep is going to create in our Unity system, which is our home-built application for job creation and job tracking and project management. They're going to create what we call an SOP, which is basically going to describe to our project team what needs to happen and what you want as an end result. And then they're going to take that SOP and create a unique process flow for your project that'll take it from step 1 through step X and turn your microfiche into a digital deliverable. Now, step 5 is the milestone. And once that project process flow is created, our senior project manager is going to run what we call our milestone 1 proof of concept, which is basically taking your project process flow, running a small batch of your microfiche through the entire process flow. That could be 10 steps, it could be 50 steps, depending on how complex your project is. And we're gonna run that small batch and basically get an end result as if we were delivering the real project. So what this does for us is we get to see if there are any anomalies in the project, there's something weird that pops up, if it matches the expectations that were set by our sales rep. And also, when we do create that milestone, you get to review it and say, yes, that is what I actually asked for. Let's move forward. Or you may say, oh, I thought I wanted this, but actually, can we tweak this? Or you may just say, this is not looking good, we need to fix something. Whichever those scenarios plays out, we will not move forward with the main bulk of the project until we get the milestone approved. We want to prevent the end of the project coming up and we deliver something, you say, this isn't what I asked for. You want to avoid that, we want to avoid that. So we have the milestone in place to get your approval so you can see what you're gonna get, say, yes, proceed BMI, and then we move forward. Step 6 is calibrating the microfiche scanner. And what that means is every project is unique in some way. Even if you have the same type of fiche as someone else, it's the same scope in general, like the indexing, the output, there's always a little bit of difference in the actual fiche. So we're gonna calibrate the scanner based on 1, density of the microfiche, which will vary, and then 2, the project spec. So every project is gonna have a certain calibration for the scanners. So that's what's gonna happen before we get into the actual scanning. Step 7 is called the pre-scan, and what we're basically doing is on each microfiche, it's gonna run through a single scan, but on a modified light setting to capture that title strip at the top of the microfiche. And the reason we do the pre-scan on a title strip is because in most cases, that title strip will be used for indexing, which is basically capturing the information on that title and turning it into something that can be used for naming your digital file. Step 8 is microfiche scanning. This is the meat of the project, the whole reason you're doing it. And during this step, what's gonna happen is our fiche scanning operators are going to place fiche on the scanner. And if it can be done in bulk, we'll put maybe 5 or 10 at a time. And as you'll watch in this video, the scanner will go through in an automatic way, but we do have operators monitoring them at all times because occasionally a fiche may not be picked up properly, or it may be scanned and some images may not come out well, maybe cut off. Whatever the reason is, we do monitor the scanning as it's going along, but it is a semi-automatic with an operator supervising process. Next comes the post-scan image processing, and after scanning, there are typically some steps to digitally process your images. These can include things like OCR text search, so basically taking your images and making them text searchable. There's digital image framing, there are QA checks, and maybe a few other things that could be part of your project. These aren't always part of the project, but if you are getting these as part of your scope work, this is the step that these items would happen in. Next in step 10 is indexing, and this is gonna be completely based on your scope work. So we talked about in the pre-scan process, getting that title strip image scanned, and let's say you're getting fiche level indexing, we would capture information from that title strip. Maybe you're getting something like image level or file level indexing, which means we're looking at individual images on that sheet of fiche and capturing data from that image. These are different levels of indexing, again, completely based on what you need and your scope of work. And this can be one of the more complex parts of the entire scanning project, because indexing can be very granular or it can be high level and a little simpler. And actually, even if we don't provide any sort of data capture, even from the fiche title strip, we typically provide, or we recommend that we provide, indexing based on what we call a unique identifier, or a UID. What that means is, even if you don't want indexing because you're gonna do something on your own or have a different company do some sort of processing, we want to deliver those images with a unique ID so that when we're deploying the images, there are no duplicates, no overwrites, or things of that sort where you may lose a file because there was no file name and it got overwritten. So we like to provide that UID to prevent that issue. And lastly is delivery. Once your fiches are scanned and processed, we need to get the digital files back to you. And for the format output, you may have a traditional method like PDFs, TIFFs, JPEGs, something of that sort, and we may be delivering it to you on a USB drive or maybe electronically through an FTP or a secure FTP, which is basically just an electronic file transfer. Another option that is available is our digital reel platform. We can host the images and data for you, and you can just access them via a secure web-based portal. So you have a couple different options when it comes to delivery, but that's the last step. We get your digital files and images, and you have the end result of what you set out to achieve. That wraps it up, our 11-step microfiche scanning process. If you decide to work with us, now you know what your fiche will go through to get digitized, processed, and delivered to you. Hope you got something from that and that you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you'd like to see some more videos like this. Thank you, and I will see you next time.